All right, so this is the key on evaluating and writing exponential functions. Well, in this case, though, in number one, basically you're asked to determine whether each of those functions is an exponential function or not. So you're going to write yes or no in the blank. So remember, an exponential function has this form: y equals some number, some real number, times b to the x power. Okay, so notice the base. Remember, the base must be greater than 0, but it cannot equal 1. So the base has to be positive, and the base cannot equal 1. All right, and the exponent can be any variable expression as long as there's a variable in the exponent. So if you look at number 1, notice that in number 1 we have, and I'm going to go ahead and write it out since you really can't see this very well. So you have this in number 1. So notice that my base is a real number and is greater than 1, and my exponent contains the variable. So this is an exponential function. B, you have g of x is equal to negative 2 times 5 to the x power. So remember, a can be any real number. So a can be any real number. The base is positive, is greater than 0. It's not equal to 1. And my exponent contains the variable. So that's yes as well. C, you have k of x is equal to negative 2 to the x power. Now, all right, now remember the base must be positive. Remember that the base has to be positive. It can equal 1. Here, my base is negative, so the answer is no. So since the base is negative. Okay, the base cannot be negative. It is not an exponential function. All right, letter D, you have h of x equals x to the 5th power. Well, remember, your base must be a real number. Your exponent must contain the variable. It's just the other way around here, right? Your base is a variable expression. Your exponent's a real number. In fact, this is a polynomial function. And so this is not a exponential function. So the answer is no there. E, a lot of students have trouble with E. So this is what we have. Now remember, I can write this negative 4 to the x power as this, negative in parentheses 4 to the x. So remember, the only if you look at the exponent of the x, the only base that's being raised, or the only number that's being raised to the x power, is this 4. If I wanted negative 4 to be raised to the x power, it would look like this, what I have here in parentheses. So you have to remember this and this are equivalent. So now if you look at the base is 4, which is a positive number. So the answer is yes there. And then also remember that negative out front is a reflection about the horizontal asymptote. So in letter E, just to remind you, in letter E, my horizontal asymptote is the x-axis. And instead of the graph going up like this, above the x-axis, it's going to be below because of that negative, that reflection about the horizontal asymptote. All right, so it looks something like that. All right, and so notice this is an exponential function. So that was E. Okay, F. Now remember, I can have an exponential function, and we talked about this before in one of our lessons, where you have vertical shifting, horizontal shifting, and all that, right? So if I cover the negative 3, 5 to the x is an exponential function. This subtracting 3 only shifts it down 3. It's still an exponential function. So don't let that subtraction 3 throw you off. This is still an exponential function. You're just taking the parent function 5 to the x power and shifting it down 3. It's still, think about it, 1, 2, 3. Here's my horizontal asymptote. And then it looks something like this. So it's still an exponential function. It's just shifted down 3 units. And then in letter K, you have, let me go ahead and write it out. You have letter G rather, you have k to the x equals 0.85 to the x power. So even though that's not an integer, it's still a real number. Remember, your base can be any real number that's positive, and it cannot equal 1. So 0.085 is a positive real number, and it's not equal to 1. So this is a function. I'm sorry, exponential function. All right, number 2a. So in 2a, you have this function, and you want to find f of 4. So to find f of 4, you're going to go to your function where we see the variable x, and you substitute 4. So you get 3 to the 2 times 4 power, right? And then 2 times 4 is 8, so that's 3 to the 8 power, and then use your calculator. So 3 to the 8th, so 3 raised to the 8th power equals, and then 6,561. So that's 6,561. All right. Letter B. So in B, we have g of x is equal to negative 3. That's negative 3 times 2 in parentheses, and the 2 is raised to the x minus 4 power. So in this case, I want to find g of 7. So g of 7 says I go to my function g, and wherever you see the variable x, I substitute 7. So I get negative 3 times 2 to the 7 minus 4th power. 7 minus 4 is 3, so that's negative 3 times 2 to the 3rd power. And I really don't need my calculator here, right? Because we all know what 2 to the 3rd power is. 2 to the 3rd is 8, and then 8 times a negative 3 is a negative 24. So the answer is negative 24. All right, in letter C, we have h of x is equal to 4 times 5 to the x plus 5 power. And I want to find h of negative 8. So h of negative 8, where we see the variable x and substitute negative 8, I get 4 times 5 to the negative 8 plus 5 power. Negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. So that's 4 times 5 to the negative 3rd power. All right, now let's remind ourselves about negative exponents. We've talked about this many times in this course, and you also had it last semester. So to make that exponent positive, I take the reciprocal of the base. So this really becomes 4 times 1/5 to the 3rd power. And so when I think about, let me go ahead and write it out right here. So when I think about 1/5 to the 3rd power, that means 1 to the 3rd divided by 5 to the 3rd. And 1 raised to any power is 1, and then 5 to the 3rd, if you don't know it, use your calculator, but 5 to the 3rd means 5 times 5 times 5, right? So 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125. So 1/5 to the 3rd power is 1 divided by 125. So this becomes right here 4 times 1 divided by 125. Now you got to write this as a fraction. So 4 times 1 divided by 125 is 4 divided by 125. And so that's your answer. So you're going to say 4 divided by 125. And remember, the directions said write your answer as an integer or a reduced fraction or a mixed number. So notice this is a reduced fraction. Do not write any decimals. All right, so that is it. That is the key to the worksheet on evaluating and writing exponential functions.